Stories Emotion 8. The knock on the door came on a wet Wednesday evening. Sharp, familiar. Amaka opened it and for the first time in a long while smiled from her soul. Uncle Ifeanyi! She cried. Her mother's younger brother, visiting from Nigeria for her business trip, stood there with 2 boxes of indomie, a loud Ankara shirt, and her arms open wide. He brought the smell of home with him, wood polish, dry heat, and tiger balm. Tobi blinked. You came from Lagos? Uncle Ifeanyi laughed, booming and free. From Ikeja straight to your doorstep. You think I won't check on my people? It was as though he carried a piece of Nigeria inside him, in the rhythm of his speech, the volume of his laugh, and the way he turned their small UK kitchen into Lagos Buka by simply being present. He stayed with them for 4 days, but the impact stretched far beyond that. On the first night, he cooked egusi soup with goat meat, talking the entire time. He told the stories of the mother as a child, how she once led a protest at school because the meat in the rice was too small. Don't let this your mommy fool you, he said, pointing his wooden spoon at Tobi. She was a lioness, small but deadly. Everyone laughed. Ozzy, hesitant at first, warmed up to him quickly. She sat at the table for longer than usual that night, nodding and asking questions about Nigeria, her grandparents, the town she barely remembered. He showed her photos on his phone, old family lands, cousins she'd forgotten, the market road where Amaka once sold fruits during university. You are not British, he said to her gently. Not fully. Don't let them wash away your roots with cold water. Ozzy didn't reply immediately, but she looked at her hands as if noticing them for the first time. Tobi followed Uncle Ifeanyi everywhere. To the African store, to the bus stall, even to the corner shop. They talked about heroes and elders, about Lagos heat, about how memory works like luggage. You only carry what matters most. You know, I didn't want us to leave, Tobi confessed once, his voice low. Things were better before. Uncle Ifeanyi looked at him. Sometimes we move not because things are bad, but because we hope for better. The trick is not to forget where you started, no matter where you land. Before leaving, Uncle Ifeanyi gave Tobi her carved wooden figurine, a small lion. Your name, Tobi, means great. Don't shrink because the world is loud. Be who you are everywhere. After he left, something lingered in the house. Not just the smell of palm oil or the leftover plantain chips, but something deeper, a warmth, a clarity. Tobi placed the lion figurine by his bedside. Ozzy appeared a lot more centered, posting a selfie with the caption, "Back to base." Niyi started reading the Bible again in Yoruba. Amaka one morning cooked akamu for breakfast. No toast, no cereal, just warm pap and akara, sweet and thick. The past wasn't haunting them anymore. It was grounding them, reminding them that being here didn't mean leaving there behind. They were not just immigrants, they were stories in motion, souls stretched across oceans, people between pages. And even though the future was still uncertain, the past had stopped feeling like a ghost. Now, it felt like a guide. Stories Emotion 9. Spring arrived like an apology. After months of frostbitten mornings and brave turned to steam, the sun finally stretched its hands over Manchester. Daffodils lined the parks. Trees, once stripped and skeletal, began dressing themselves in quiet green. Tobi noticed it first. He stood outside one afternoon, jacket unzipped, face tilted toward the sun that still felt unsure of itself. For the first time in months, he didn't rush back inside. He let the breeze lift his collar. He just stood there, breathing. Something was changing. Ozzy got accepted into a college media program. She didn't announce it with fanfare. She just slid the letter across the dinner table one evening. Amaka read it first. Her eyes softened. This is good, Ozzy. This is really good. Niyi smiled tentatively. Maybe we should have a small celebration? Ozzy shrugged. Maybe. That weekend, they bought cupcakes from Lidl. Nii found a balloon shop on the high street and bought one that said, "You did it!" Even though it was probably meant for a graduation. They took photos in the living room. Tobi made sure everyone smiled. Ozzy posted the photo online with a caption that simply read, "We move." Nii and Amaka weren't magically fixed, but they began trying again. They started taking walks together after dinner, slow ones around the block, coats zipped, hands deep in pockets. Sometimes they didn't talk, sometimes they talked too much, but they worked together, side by side. They learned to sit in the same room again, without the weight of unspoken resentment between them. They laughed occasionally, quiet chuckles that felt like old shoes being broken in again. Tobi started playing football at school. His PA teacher recommended him for a local team. He was fast, scrappy, and hungry to prove something, not to others, but to himself. One afternoon after a muddy practice, he looked out into the crowd and saw Nii standing alone by the fence, still in his work boots, clapping. He waved. Tobi waved back. It was small, but it meant everything. Amaka called her father back in Anambra more often now, not just for updates, but to talk. Really talk. He told her, "You are building something in the hard soil. It may grow slower, but it will be strong." She held on to those words during long shifts and longer nights. She began journaling again, something she hadn't done since university. Pages filled with scattered thoughts, prayers, questions, reminders that she was still herself even in the fog of survival. In April, they hung a new photo beside the old one from Freedom Street. This one showed them in a park, surrounded by daffodils. Ozzy was in jeans, hair out. Nii had his arm slightly around Amaka's shoulder. Tobi held the football under one arm. The sun was setting in the corner of the frame. They weren't all smiling perfectly, but they looked like they belonged to each other. Healing didn't come like fireworks, it came like breath. One slow inhale at a time. They were not the same family that left Lagos, but they were still a family. One, stretched, reshaped, and maybe that was enough. They were learning to breathe again, together. Stories emotion 10. The summer came late, like it was trying to make up for all it had missed. On the warmest day of the year so far, 21 degrees Celsius, the British would proudly boast. The family found themselves in Platfields Park, surrounded by other brown-skinned families with folding chairs and smoky grills. Afro beats pumped from a Bluetooth speaker. The sun was real, the joy louder than it had been in a long time. It was the first proper picnic they'd had since arriving in the UK. Tobi ran through the grass, shoes off, chasing after a football with two boys from his team. His laughter echoed across the park, unburdened. Ozzy sat under a tree, legs crossed, sunglasses on, and natural hair was in twist. She wore her t-shirt that read "Lagos raised me." She was on her phone, but this time she wasn't scrolling, she was recording, filming clips for her short documentary about immigrants and memory. Amaka handed out puff-puff from a foil tray, laughing as she scolded Nii for sneaking extra pieces. Her feet were in sandals. Her eyes had lines from all the months she had carried the family on her back, but they also had light again. Nii wore his old Arsenal jersey. His phone kept buzzing with new delivery alerts, but he ignored it. He was watching Tobi now, watching the boy run and fall and rise, shouting instructions in his thick Nigerian accent, unashamed. "I think it's finally settled," Nii said quietly. Amaka smiled. "No, it's just getting started." Later that evening, clouds rolled in, thick and silver. A drizzle began to fall, warm and light. Everyone else packed up, panicked, scrambling to avoid the rain, but the family stayed put, laughing under the sky as though they remembered something the others had forgotten. Tobi tilted his face up and let the water kiss the skin. Ozzy didn't move. "This rain," she said, "smells like home." Amaka looked at her husband. He was smiling, not the tired kind, but the real one, the one from Freedom Street. She reached for his hand. He didn't hesitate. They walked home that night as a unit, not quite whole, but whole enough. They were still bills waiting, still shifts to work, still homesickness that came in waves, but there was also this, A family that had broken, bent, bruised, and still chose each other. Rain fell, sunlight slipped through, and in between, they lived. Bittersweet, but still sweet. Still series in motion. The end. We are finally at the end of this series. I poured my heart into it. I hope you also leave the feedback, a like, and your comments would encourage me to keep pouring my heart into what's like this. The GTN community is growing. Thank you.